Welcome to the Midnight Soup podcast. This is a special feature called The Witching Hour. I'm your host, Emily, and this is my friend,
Taylor.
And we both love mysticism, occult, witchy stuff, folklore, etc. And we both love to research it and read about it in our free time. So we thought, let's take this into a podcast, and it gives us an excuse to explore even more of this stuff that we love. So we thought today, for our first episode, we would do an episode about the witching hour. And Taylor is really good at doing research, and she is also a wizard with Excel. So she has put together a lot of this information. This is the history of the witching hour. We've all heard stories of bumps in the nights, eerie noises sent through the breeze on a foggy night, and unexplained phenomenon most commonly around 3 a.m. or between midnight and 3 a.m. The witching hour, also known as the devil's hour or the chime hour, are names to encompass this time frame. This is when the veil between the world is the thinnest, or is this when the devil is most likely out to play? Could it even just be our human brain scaring ourselves because of REM sleep? That's what we're here to discuss. So references to that information can be found in the show notes. And Taylor found an article on Tuft and Needle, which is like a mattress manufacturer of all things, which is super well written about the history of the witching hour, what it is. So if you want to check that out, feel free. And we'll have a lot of this stuff linked in the show notes as well for you to check our research if you want, or just read further about it. So, do you want to discuss some of the first times that we have seen the phrase witching hour used in history?
Yeah. So the first written use of the phrase witching hour was in Elizabeth Keene's poem Nightmare, which was published in 1762. So the poem states, "'Tis the baleful witching hour. Lo, the moon withdraws her light." And the poem is referencing actually like a Shakespeare Shakespeare's Hamlet, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
So Shakespeare wrote Witching Time of Night, but we'll get back to that. Spooky. So this is a little side note about the poem because I have never read this poem. Have you read this poem before this podcast research?
I'd never heard of it until you showed me.
Never heard of it. It is super creepy. I highly recommend you guys read it. But the poem is referencing and kind of talking about nightmares, which is the name of the poem, so that makes sense. But it references...
Checks out.
Check. References the night hag, and that's actually the precursory term for nightmare. So a night hag is often thought to be a demonic witch or a succubus who lies atop a sleeping person and restricts their movements or suffocates the sleeping person.
Oh,
that's spooky. So I understand why the phrase witching hour was lumped in with that, because that would definitely be spooky to be woken up in the middle of the night, feel like you can't breathe. And It's interesting how the term night hag goes with the witching hour, because people most often wake up at that 3 a.m. midnight time interval and are like, something spooky. So
yeah,
there's a lot of other information about this topic, and we'll probably do another podcast episode on it, because if you Wikipedia it, it's so crazy. And did you look at the page? And there was like 40 plus stories, and every region of the world has different stories on it.
About the night hag and like sleep paralysis and stuff.
Yes. And it goes into sleep paralysis, which I've never had, but Emily has. And what is
and it's
sleep
freaky.
Paralysis? What is that though? It's like, ugh.
It's like I don't get it as much, but I used to get it all the time. And it's where like I would wake up in the middle of the night and I wouldn't be able to move my body at all, but I would feel like I was conscious and I would just be like stuck like inside my body. But really, I'm not fully conscious. And sometimes I would see like people in the room, things in the room, or I would hear noises, which I'll save that for because I think we will do an episode on sleep paralysis and the night hag. It's such a scary thing because there's so much to talk about with that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
so
super spooky.
you'll have to listen to the next episode. So, anywho.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So, Elizabeth Kean's poem, like I said, is actually referencing Shakespeare's Witching Time of Night. And that phrase actually appeared in several of Shakespeare's plays, including Macbeth, Julius Caesar, and Hamlet. But the witching hour is never directly defined, so he is not referencing any specific time of night, just kind of the night in general as a witching time, which makes sense because because night, like, that's when the creepy crawlies come out. So and I'm sure in Macbeth time and Hamlet time, not Macbeth, well, yes, Macbeth time, night, it was super creepy because there's no lights. It's all
Even
candle.
more.
And
Yeah.
rats running around. Ugh.
Yeah. Super spooky.
The witching hour has various times due to, in my opinion, and I'm interested to hear your take, Emily, on like what I think it is pagan versus Christian roots. So folklore and non-Christian stories, aka pagan, have generally used midnight to 3 a.m. as the witching hour because that's when witches and other supernatural energies have had stronger magic, and it's supposedly when the veil is the thinnest between worlds. The devil's hour generally references 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., which I also did not know this before researching. So it's supposedly the inverse time of when Jesus died on the cross, which was 3 p.m., and the supposed holy hour. So the devil works in opposition of Jesus, God, all those entities, if you believe of those. So the opposite of 3 p.m. would be 3 a.m. What do you think?
In 1535, the Catholic Church banned activities between 3 and 4 a.m. because of the rise of witchcraft and people like practicing the occult at night. And I think that's just when all of the witches and the pagans and honestly probably just normal people like doing stuff with herbs and shit, because back then it was like considered witchcraft. They would go and like
witchcraft.
Any woman like doing anything at night is like
witch.
Considered she was a witch. So so they banned that activity, but people were just trying to do their stuff in the middle of but they had to do it in the middle of the night because they couldn't be seen. They'd be persecuted. One thing that you had found, you mentioned, I did want to mention one thing before we go into the chime hour. Mm-hmm. In yogic philosophy, I hope I pronounced this right, Brahma Muhurta, it's a Sanskrit phrase that translates to time of the Brahma, which is the time before dawn around 3:30 to 5 a.m. And it's considered within that cultural context as one of the most spiritually potent times for meditation and insight to come through. And I had read there was something that said it was something about the nascent oxygen. Is that like in your like oxygen that goes through your nose or something? I should have researched that.
I've never heard that name.
Something about the oxygen in the atmosphere could like boost immunity, increase energy, relieve pain. I don't know. But It seems to be something that's not just within the Western world. Not that it was termed like the witching hour, but there's something significant about that, 3 to 5 a.m. Middle of the night time.
That's correct. I Googled this while you were talking about it because I was like, how have I
Oh,
never
what did you
heard of
find?
this? So it says there's substantial research to this. The entire body is in a certain conducive atmosphere, and there is a natural production of what is called melatonin, which is a
Oh,
secretion
yeah.
of the pineal gland. We want to make use of this because the pineal gland is
Oh,
secreting at
yeah.
its maximum during Brahma Muhurta, which means you can
Yes.
stabilize. Because in modern medicine, melatonin is seen as a mood stabilizer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You might be looking at the same thing I was reading because it was talking about the pineal gland is at the highest levels of melatonin, which is what you just said. But I was just reading my
Directly off a website, don't worry.
um yeah,
That's
so
really
let's
amazing.
go. I know, isn't that crazy? Let's go into the science, but first let's talk about the chime hour a little bit. Because you found this in your research. There was this folklorist named Ruth Tongue, and she coined the term chime children. Um, do you want me to talk about it, or do you want to talk about it?
Yes, you do it. Go off,
Okay.
Queen.
Okay. Go off, Queen. So, she wrote a book about the chime children in the 60s and 70s, and the idea was that people born at certain hours of the day or night were they gained special powers. And mostly that like middle of the night hour, and specifically on a Friday for some reason was like they're like extra special. But the special powers would range from being more perceptive to animals, seeing ghosts, being musically gifted, and they often corresponded with the chiming of the church bells,
Yes.
marking the monastic prayer at 8 p.m., midnight, and 4 a.m.
That's what I read about. Also, okay, wait. What time were you born?
Oh, ah, damn it! I'm not a chime child. I was born at 6:44 p.m.
I was born at
Were
3:04
you?
a.m.
We're in the presence of a chime child.
Well, I wonder if that's why I'm always
That's
okay.
spooky. Because
So,
she's psychic.
so that's what I was just going to tell the story about the car.
Which one?
When Rick called and we were driving, so Emily and I did a little road trip and we went to the Bay Area of
Wait, I'm
California.
not.
Oh,
Oh,
you're
when we
gonna
went to see
remember.
Shania.
We went to see
We went
Shania
to see
Twain.
Shania Twain.
We had such a good
Let's go,
time.
girls.
Let's go, girls. We had such a good time. But we're driving down and we're in my car and we're not talking about work, but just a little side story. Emily and I met through work. We
Oh
were
yeah.
hired like literally like a week apart from each other. I
Hmm.
started a week after Emily. So we weren't talking about work. We were just talking about other life stuff. And our coworker calls. And I look at Emily and I look her dead in the eye and I go, this person's name, I think you put in his resignation. And I answer remember? I was like, he
Oh my
quit.
god.
Remember? I was like, Al quit.
Yes.
And I
That's
answered,
crazy.
it was crazy because we were not talking about anything. And I distinctly remember looking at you in the eye and go, I think Al just quit. And I answered, and I was driving. So there was no text that like could have came
That was
through.
crazy.
So I answer the
And
phone and I'm
and it
like,
wasn't even anything like it wasn't even we weren't talking about that. Like it was such a random thing. And then he gets
and
on the phone and he's like, "Oh, he quit." And we were like,
Emily just screamed. Emily was like, are you kidding me? She was like, Taylor just looked at me and was like, he quit. And Rick was like, our coworker was like, did you know? And I was like, no, dude, I've been driving we were right outside of Ukiah. So we had been driving for like 3 hours at this point, like didn't really have service. I couldn't have looked at my
yeah,
phone anyway. And
that
I
was
was
so
driving.
bizarre.
It was so bizarre. And it was like, I just I saw him calling and was like, "Oh, this person put his notice in," and like I just said it out loud. It didn't even like I didn't think about
It
it or
didn't make any
anything.
sense. I was like, oh.
You were like, "Why would you say that?" And I just like
It was
answered.
so random.
So that's not the first time that's happened. Also at
Mm-hmm.
work, I've been like, I think the power is going to go out, and then it's
Oh
gone
yeah, that
out.
happened. Yeah, that was freaking weird too. Because it was like, why? I think the power's gonna go out. Okay, and it literally goes out. Yeah, it's nuts.
So this has happened my whole life. So I'm not kidding. Like weird shit
Chime
like this is
child.
it's happened so many times, and like just weird shit. Like so,
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's something to that. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, I think it checks out.
and I had no idea
Um,
about this before you said anything, so that's really funny.
yeah, I went through and like read that article, and then I was like, chime children, and then I went and did more research about it. And people were like, is this fiction? You know, is this like there was something about her she was living in England, and she was writing about like some children in her community, like in like the little area of England that she was in. There wasn't that much research to say like I don't know that anyone had really, fact checked the book. It was just oh wait, oh, it's back. Your audio cut out for a minute.
I muted myself because I wanted to take a drink of water, but then I was
Oh, that's a good call. I've
because I
been drinking my two beverages, and that's probably an annoying noise, so I should do
I
that.
I didn't hear you, but I would hate to for you to listen and me be like slur.
Well, I don't care, but I know a lot of people have that. What is it? Misophonia? What
I
is
know what
that?
you're talking about because I have it very badly because
Misophonia?
I'll be
You
on
have? Oh, I'm not surprised you have it.
the
She's a
I'll,
Capricorn.
I'm a Capricorn. Yeah, I'm like a Capricorn stellium, so like almost all of my planets are in Capricorn. But my boss will talk to me on the phone and he'll be like, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up and
It's
hang up
mis
this phone.
it's misophonia. Misophonia. And it's when you can't handle like chewing, slurping sounds, certain sounds.
No, I hate when people chew.
My I had an ex-boyfriend that would get so triggered every time I would take a sip of my tea because I'm always walking around. I always have a mug of tea, and he didn't like the sound that my like the throat swallow sound. And I was like, I don't know if I just have like different throat skin. I don't know. It's just like he was like freaked out, like it was too loud. Anyway,
I've
he had
never
that.
noticed. You're not
I
allowed
mean, it made me
either.
kind of self-conscious.
I
I
would
can
too.
be with the right food.
Well, anyone could be with the right food.
True.
Popcorn, it's crunchy.
Oh yeah, it's loud. It's crunchy. So, one thing that I found really interesting in my research, a lot of great minds use a particular sleep schedule called the Uberman or the polyphasic sleep cycle. And so this is back in the day, like Edison, Da Vinci, Tesla, and I think even like Salvador Dali used a variation of the method, where they're taking 20-minute naps every 4 hours. So they're only getting like 2.5 hours of sleep within like a 24-hour period or something, which is like ridiculous. And that's not something that people really do now because we know the negative effects of poor sleep are like detrimental, you know?
When you told me about this, I did read a little bit in that a lot of scientists contribute Tesla's dying so young to like his
Mm,
not sleeping.
that makes
Also, he
sense.
had OCD really badly. Not saying that's why he died, but
Hmm.
go on.
Could have, yeah. Um, he had like a breakdown at 25, and some people were like, "Oh, we're gonna likely attribute that to his poor sleep schedule." Um, so why did they do this? Because their reasoning was more time and more productivity, and they thought sleep was a waste of time. They thought snoozing was a waste of their time and energy. They got stuff to do. So Thomas Edison would sometimes hold a ball in each hand when he was napping so that he'd fall asleep and then it would fall to the floor and wake him up. And what's suggested here is that they said that they would get some of their best ideas like in those moments right before falling asleep or like right when they're waking up. And there's something called the hypnagogic state, which is something that occurs just before we fall asleep, and it helps us to recall creative ideas. So there was a sleep study I found where a woman named Delphine Odiette, something like that. She and her team tested 103 participants on math problems with a hidden shortcut. And after excluding those who solved it immediately, the rest took a 20-minute break, relaxing while holding a glass that would fall if they dozed off. The brain activity was monitored to track their wakefulness and sleep stages, and after the break, those who briefly entered something called N1 sleep were nearly 3 times more likely to discover the shortcut within the math problem than those who stayed awake, and 6 times more likely than those who entered deeper N2 sleep.
I did a quick Google about what N1 sleep is. Okay. I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I had that information and then I left out what that is. So come in with the facts, Taylor.
So, facts from Kaiser Permanente, which was my hospital growing up. Stage N1
that was mine too for a minute.
Ooh. And the doctors sucked, and that's why they kept being like, you're pregnant. And I was like, I'm 13, I'm not pregnant. Turns out I had a infection in my stomach. Anyway, that's a story for a different time. I forgot about that shit. But don't trust doctors. Anyway, trust doctors. Don't listen to me. Trust doctors. Trust doctors. Trust doctors, but if they're not giving you an answer, get a second opinion because especially
and a
women,
third and a fourth.
Yeah, especially women and women of color, because it is proven that we do not get the healthcare we need. So stage N1 occurs right after you fall asleep and is very short, usually less than 10 minutes. It involves light sleep from which you can be awakened easily. Stage N2 lasts about 30 to 60 minutes. During this stage, your muscles become more relaxed and you may begin to have a slow wave delta brain activity. So N1 stands for non-rapid eye movement sleep, NREM. So I'm guessing N2. Okay, so stage 2 is light sleep, no REM, and stage 3 is deep sleep, no REM. And then there's just REM sleep. Do you have a Fitbit?
I don't have a Fitbit. Don't you have an Apple Watch?
I had an Apple Watch, but also fun fact about me, I have very sensitive skin. So
it was irritating your.
I had a terrible rash from it, which I don't know why because I'm not allergic to any metals. Supposedly, I've done an allergy panel, but I don't know. So part of Fitbit's little thingy is that you have various types of sleep, and they actually. So if you have a Fitbit, depending on whatever one you have, you can look at your sleep data and data. Say that however you want. It does monitor your deep sleep, REM sleep, and all that other good stuff, and light sleep. So, and then it scores you. Obviously, we're not sponsored by Fitbit, but I think this is really interesting.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. but it will be like you get a sleep score, and so based on your sleeps, there's like all these different metrics. But anyway, sleep studies are very fascinating, so keep going.
This study that they did that was inspired by Edison's polyphasic or Uberman sleep cycle. The eureka moment emerged after multiple attempts aligning the past research on sleep and insight. Wait, what even is it? I feel like these are half-baked notes. Hang on.
Were you high
Oh, okay. So that I'm not even. I feel high.
when you wrote them?
No. Okay, so in REM sleep, it suggested that in REM sleep, the phase in which our eyes dart back and forth and most dreams occur, and non-REM sleep, they are working together to encourage problem solving. So there's like this sweet spot in there within the sleep cycle. And that's what all of these like greats were tapping into, is having the ideas, but then being able to like hold on to them and like grasp onto the ideas. And I don't know where I was going with that, but that's all I have on that.
That's why they did it. So I like it's just interesting that there's so many. Like me at 3 a.m., I'm waking up because my cats are always coming to check on me at 3 a.m.
Oh yeah, cat. We should have done some research into cats during the witching hour.
Because I'm sure that would be really interesting, because I'm sure cats and dogs like do some weird stuff, because I like it's like clockwork. My cat every 3 a.m. she's on my bed staring at my face, waking me up, and I'm just like, okay, well, 2 more hours of sleep, please. And usually she'll just go back to sleep after she wakes me up. But it's like clockwork every night. So I don't know if they see someone coming to visit me
Spirits.
and they're like,
hello,
Mom, wake up. Somebody's here to talk to you. Can you not see them?
That reminds me of, have you seen that video of like, it's an audio of like all these women like chanting, and then the video is like someone's cats just like staring at candles or something.
Yes.
And the chants, like all the cats are like chanting together. I'll put that in the show notes too, because that cracks me up. But yeah, maybe they're doing witchcraft at the witching hour. Who knows?
I mean, I think my cat, Lucy, is my familiar. Like, she knows something. She knows everything, because she's like on me at all times.
Yeah, she always knows what's going on. Yeah, energetically, she seems like she's really aligned with you.
Yeah, which isn't surprising because she's very sassy, like her mom.
Yeah. Is she a Capricorn too?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't know when she was born.
She was adopted.
Well, cats know something that we don't.
Yeah.
One other thing I was just going to mention briefly is on TikTok, there was something going around called the 4 a.m. Club, where it was like a group of women that had woken up on the night of the election. And I found this out because, this caught my attention because this happened to me too. So during that night, like I just went to bed like normal, and then I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I just had this feeling of like, first of all, don't look at your phone. And second of all, like I just knew who had won the election, but then I was also like, had this like big feeling of just like calm wash over me that was just like, it's fine, like everything's fine. Like I just wasn't worried. And there was just a whole, I guess it was like a trending thing on TikTok because so many people had also woken up and had that exact same experience at 4 a.m. that night. So anyways, it spiraled into like this whole thing that I wasn't really following, because they were like, oh, it's Hecate, like communicating with all of us, which it could be, you know, but I just I was like, I don't know where this is going. But anyways, that was interesting. So it just goes back again to, it's mysterious. I don't know. Whatever is happening at 3 to 4 a.m., we can't really know. for sure. It's a mystery.
But there is a scientific explanation.
Oh, yeah,
So
give
they
it to us.
claim. So around 3 a.m., the pineal gland, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
typically at peak activity, producing the
Right.
highest levels of melatonin, which actually goes back to what you were talking about for what
Bra,
did it? Time of the Brahma. I don't know how
yeah.
to say the
Mm-hmm.
Sanskrit phrase in Sanskrit, so excuse me on that. So, a study was published in 2021 in Science Advances, which reported that we humans have a brief period of creativity and insight in the semi lucid state that occurs just as we begin to drift into sleep, a phase called N1 or non-rapid eye movement, but non-rapid eye movement, non-REM sleep stage, which is what you're actually talking about in that
Mm-hmm.
sleep study. So the findings imply that we can harness that liminal haze between sleep and wakefulness, known as hypnagogic state, and we might
Oh,
recall
yeah.
our bright ideas more easily. So that kind of is in line with your great minds, like what you were talking about with Edison, Da Vinci, and Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't have the research linked on here, but I also found an article about why we wake up at 3 a.m. and possibly see like images is that 3 a.m. is also like when REM sleep generally occurs. So, not when
Mm-hmm.
you're falling asleep, like this Science Advances report mentioned, um, but actually, what 3 a.m. is when your REM sleep is occurring. So, if you're waking up during your REM sleep, your body can be awake and your eyes can be awake, but like it's not catching up to your mind. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's also why you feel like a very deep sense of dread is because you were just woken up from like the deepest point of unconsciousness. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I
That's
read
also
about
what
that.
with sleep paralysis, you have like the heavy feeling of like dread, like there's something bad vibe in the room with you, you know?
Yes. So that I think that if you want to be scientific, which I don't, but I do because I am
Boo.
a boo. I believe in empirical data. I believe in research, but I also don't think like telepathy tapes. If you guys have
Oh,
not
yeah.
read, yeah, I like that we just read each other's minds. So I had
Yeah, we
started,
did.
yeah, I had started listening to telepathy tapes, and I was like, I want to listen to this with my partner. And then Emily was like, "Have you listened to that?" And I was like, "Dude, I started it, and it sounded so interesting, but I just wanted to listen to it with Evan." Well, we started listening to it, and it's basically about how scientists are written off for anything that is not physically proven. So if you
Mhm.
can't prove it in the physical world, then it can't be scientifically proven, which I disagree with, and the podcast obviously goes into. But I think that aligns with kind of like the 3 a.m. like, is it just our brain? It probably is our brain, but that doesn't mean there's outside factors that are contributing.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. Yeah, that podcast basically, I feel like that is just such a it's such a massive it's going to create such a massive shift because like it's just taking a huge dump on like staunch materialism. Like, you know, all those people that weren't open to researching this stuff, um they're just now seeing like here is this provable factual information and these studies that you can't really refute that have been done on telepathy at this point. So I think that's really exciting.
I think so too. The truth is out there. I want to believe.
Wee woo wee. So that is a pretty thorough dive into the witching hour, I'd say. And from my perspective, I'm going to continue to believe that the veil is thinner in the middle of the night, and that our ability to communicate with the unseen is heightened. And
I,
that's where I'm coming from.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's really interesting that different like religions and cultures have different ideas, but that there's all some kind of vibe around the midnight to 3 a.m., like to 4 a.m. Yeah, something else is happening. And like, I know humans tend to think like we're the center of the universe, literally, and we
Hmm.
are all we can see, so we're all that can exist. But animals can see different colors. Like, what we see is
Yeah.
not everything. So I just don't, to be so close minded, I can't imagine. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Please.
something out there. Yeah. Like, come on.
Speaking of, I just want to make one more note. Um, when you said animals can see different colors, a mantis shrimp has 12 color receptors in each eye, while humans have three. So they can see many more colors than we can see. That's a
I can't,
shrimp.
that's a shrimp. I think, is it true they can see radio waves? Am I making that up or is like,
Honestly, whatever. I believe it.
I, not, I can shrimp see radio waves? It's a mantis shrimp, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
I did
well,
it.
whatever.
They see ultraviolet and polarized
Oh,
lights. Yeah.
which humans can't see with our naked eye.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, and it's like, how do we know they can see that? Like, I don't,
Good
how,
question. Are we asking them? How do we know?
how do we know? So we can end on a personal note and kind of talk about little stuff that we're up to. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So, what are you crafting right now? What's your
Ooh.
fun craft?
Um, I actually am just gonna show you because I'm gonna put this on YouTube. So I've been really into making bag charms. I went to my sister's house and she had so many different charms and like old jewelry that we tinkered with. And I made these little bag charms,
Ooh,
fun.
I
And then
love
I
that.
made this
Wait.
one with a frog she gave me.
Okay, so pause because I'm sure not everyone is going to go watch the video. The first
Oh,
one
yeah.
Emily showed had some, were those like some kind of coins? Give a
There's like
little,
these Asian coins. I don't know
yes,
what they are,
they
but they're
are,
giant.
they're giant gold coins with holes in the middle. They look, I love them, stunning.
So cool.
Excuse me,
And
a
then
heart.
there's a heart, and then there's another beaded one, and you just hang them on your bags.
It's
And then
very
there's one with
cute.
a bunch of beads and a frog,
A leather frog, very
leather
Emily.
frog. And then this charm necklace. I made a charm necklace too. That's like a
Ooh,
medieval inspired.
love it.
So yeah, that's super fun. I have like all these little charms and little things that I collect, so I think I'm gonna make some more.
Those will be great for Christmas next year. Start
I
planning
was thinking
now.
that, yeah, I was thinking that I have to start now or that's not gonna happen, but yeah.
I know.
So my question to you is what are you reading right now? Oh, that's my sticker.
Yeah. Uh,
Hey.
I'm Emily's number one fan.
Yeah,
Just
she has
kidding.
so many of my stickers on
But
her water
I
bottles and
I
stuff.
have so many of her stickers and my partner does too. I think
I
Evan's
love
gonna
it.
put something. He has one on his water bottle, but he wants to put one on his car. I but we put one that says less honkin', more tonkin on our
Oh,
cooler.
hell
And every
yeah.
time I see it, I'm like,
I love it.
so support Emily's art. She's amazing.
Hey. So my question to you is what are you reading? Because you're always reading something interesting and new, and she is where I get a lot of my book recommendations from.
So I'm listening to two audiobooks right now, and I am reading two books. Actually, I'm always reading like a ton of books. which is a terrible trait of mine. But I just like to jump around. And then I do finish them, though. So right now I'm listening to The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. She is the author of
Oh,
Practical
yeah.
Magic, and we both love her. But
Hmm.
this book is a little bit hard for me because it's a little sad, and right now the political state of the world and environmental state of the world is not the best. So I put that one on pause. And for just a little synopsis, it's about a girl who gets pregnant at 17, runs away, and she joins a cult. And it's very obviously a cult. Like, she kind of describes it immediately as being cult like. And then the point of view switches to the daughter she has. So I like it, but it's a little sad. So that one's that. And then the other one I'm reading is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin
Oh,
Stevenson.
I just literally was like,
Were you like, is this
I
true?
literally, I literally thought you were starting that off by telling me, and this is why I'm reading this book. Okay, wait, what is that book?
My family probably has. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe, because they are pretty nuts. The book is called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone.
Who's it by?
Benjamin Stevenson. And I got that recommendation from my coworker because she and her husband have live in this nice apartment complex. They have this really nice pool, and they were like, we're gonna do a little book club between us, and like we're gonna go read our books by the pool and like talk about it like every day, which I thought was really cute.
I like
Um,
that.
they did not end up doing it.
Oh.
But this was the book they picked. And my coworker was like, oh, you'd probably really like it. So I've been on the library waiting list for it, and I finally got the audiobook. It is so dark but funny, which is my genre. So it's not like I don't listen to true crime anymore because I realized it gives me more anxiety than I need. But this is
Yeah.
very obviously fiction, and it's dark and funny. And it's kind of Agatha Christie like, so you're not
Oh, I
really
like that.
sure. Yes. And I just read an Agatha Christie book too. I mean, when Emily and I talked about doing the podcast, I was reading two other books. So that's how much time has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best book I've read so far this year, I think, is probably going to be Tongue, which is a Korean book. And no spoilers, but it is the craziest book I've ever read.
Is it like spooky crazy?
No, it's not spooky.
Like mystery?
It's more like, oh, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, did you ever read Gone Girl?
Oh, I didn't read it, but I saw the movie.
Yes. So I did
It's like
not
that.
I don't like the book. Haters gonna hate. I don't care. I don't like the book. It's not for me. But I remember
Hmm.
watching the movie and being like, it's like erotic. It's like emotionally raw. It's very sensual. And you're just like, what the heck? But it's like, it's not smut.
Okay.
So
That
it's
sounds
crazy.
interesting.
It's very interesting. One of the best books I've ever read, and it's by Kyung Ran Jo. And I might have pronounced that wrong, but they are a Korean author. It's amazing. I highly recommend it.
So I really need like a good book I can sink my teeth in, so maybe I'll get that. I'll check
Girl,
that out.
I am telling you, it is. And also, Emily knows this, but I'm very into food, and there's a lot of stuff about food in the book. So I don't know if it was just
I
me,
like
but
that.
like, oh my gosh, it was so beautifully written. Um,
Mm,
just so beautiful and crazy. Just a wild ride of a book. So
mm.
I recommend that to everyone. I'm like, this is, if they could make it into a movie, it would probably ruin it because the language in the
Oh,
book is so eloquent.
one of those.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll put
Chef's
links to
kiss.
those books in the show notes too.
I'm gonna.
Well, this has been a journey. If you like the podcast, let us know. We would love for you to leave a review. We're going to keep doing it whether or not you like it, because we're having fun. And if you don't like it, don't say anything to us, please. Okay. So feel free to leave us a review and share with your friends. And feel free to make a suggestion if there's anything that you would like us to research and look into more within the sphere of what the witching hour is, being like mysticism, occult, like witchy, all of that. We're into it. We're into exploring. Yeah, zodiac, anything in there.
We're into
anything
it.
Woo.
And Emily, what is your social media handle? They want to follow you.
Oh, well, I can tell you, Taylor. You can follow me on Instagram at emily.earthing. And on Substack, I have the Midnight Soup newsletter and just other writing, which this is kind of like an extension of that. And you can find me on TikTok at Madam Toad and on YouTube at Emily Earthing. So thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me, Taylor. And yeah, we'll see you next time. And if you would like to write in any stories about your personal experiences with the witching hour, feel free to write in at midnightsoupworld@gmail.com. And we can chat about those too. We can share those on another podcast. So thanks for listening. I hope that you come back and join us again.
Thank you. Bye.